and the walls are covered in soot, and he's still living there. You go in the kitchen, and it's black, and it's burned out. Come to find out, his wife had passed away a couple of years ago. His best friend lived across the street from him and says, "Hey, man, don't worry. We got each other. We'll take care of each other." And that guy dies a week later. I can tell this guy is going to need some help. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, does he have family? Where's he going to go? Does he have any resources? Or is there some resources I can find for him?
A simple claim can turn into a moment that changes how you look at this job. It's exactly what happened to James Mathis when one inspection led him to a man living alone in the ashes of his home. And what followed became one of the most powerful examples of compassion that I've ever heard from an adjuster. And listen, I've handled over 10,000 property claims myself, everything from hurricanes to wildfires, and I can tell you the technical side of this work is only half the story. The other half is human. If you're new to this business, this conversation will give you a completely different perspective on what doing good work really means. Because no matter how much technology or automation changes the industry, one thing will never change. People still need people. But before we let James tell this emotional story, really quick, I want to thank two of my biggest sponsors, Kaplik. Protect yourself as an IA with E&O and general liability coverages right now at cplic.net/adjustertv. Again, that's cplic.net/adjustertv. And Hague Education, which is the #1 resource for damage identification books, trainings, and certifications. And not only that, but they provide building inspection and desk adjuster trainings and certifications as well. Check them out at hagueeducation.com and use code AdjusterTV for a juicy discount. All right, let's get into it. Starting now.
We see a lot of stuff in this business, man. You go out, you look at the stuff every day, and you see people have water losses, tornadoes, hail. We talk about my experience with a hailstorm where we literally lost everything in a hailstorm. Wiley, Texas, grapefruit size hail, had 37 holes in my roof. All the water came in, all the roofs collapsed, all the electronics. The walls got ripped out, all the cabinets came out, everything came out of the house. The house was gutted. Clothing was just saturated and molded, It was the worst thing you could typically, other than, I think, the only thing worse than I think I could go through than that would be a fire, And so you see stuff and, you get to this, you get a little numb, you get a little jaded by things you see in this business. And because, it's not our job to get involved. Our job is to go out there and objectively look at the damage and apply policy to the loss and write our report and move it on down the road and go to the next one, right? And most adjusters that I've seen and that I've followed around, they don't bother to really talk to the adjuster. They just go in, I'm Bob, your adjuster. I'm here to look at stuff. Don't bother me while I'm working. I've seen it, witnessed it. And, don't have conversations with them. And so I ended up having a claim. It was a mobile home claim, and they had a kitchen fire. I made a mistake. I said he was 80 years old. He's not quite that old. He's 76 years old. Still old. It's still, still got a couple of years on me, right? And
hey, 76 is the new 50.
Yeah, well, I'm only 17 years behind that. So I'm knocking, as far as I'm concerned, I'm knocking on the door of 76. But anyway, this old man he doesn't have a cell phone. He has an old school landline phone, and I tried calling him a few times and couldn't get him on the phone. And finally I reach him and I get out to his house and the walls are covered in soot, and he's still living there. And you go in the kitchen and it's black and it's burned out. And I'm talking to this guy and come to find out his wife had passed away a couple of years ago. His best friend lived across the street from him and says, "Don't worry," but who was also a widower, his wife had passed away, tells this insured that I'm with, "Hey man, don't worry. We got each other. We'll take care of each other." And that guy dies a week later. So I'm getting this story from this guy, as I'm just chatting with him, asking if he had family. Because what I'm trying to do, I'm talking to, because I can tell this guy is going to need some help. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, does he have family? Where's he going to go? Does he have any resources? Or is there some resources I can find for him? And this house is just, he's in a mobile home. It's a mobile home policy. Because of the age of the mobile home, it's going to be ACV. Okay. mitigation alone would eat up what he has available on his
Right.
policy, what the limits of the policy would be.
If you like this video and you like the kind of content we're making here on Adjuster TV, it'd be really cool. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't think there's really any downside. Hit the subscribe button and, do the likes and the shares and the bells and all that stuff. That'd be really great because it helps us make more videos and I really, really appreciate it. So let's get back to James.
And that doesn't include property. This is just the structural part of it. And, I, I do my job, go in there, take pictures, get out of there, take my measurements, and go home. And the next day, I'm thinking about this guy. And this was on Friday, and I call him just to check on him, ask him how he's doing, ask him if he had eaten anything. He says, "No, I really haven't had an appetite." And I said, "Well, I kind of don't blame you. I mean, but I'll check on you later." I called him again on Sunday, still hadn't eaten. He said he still hadn't eaten. I said, "Well, if you could eat anything you want right now, what would you have?" Well, the guys from New York, originally from Connecticut, but came from New York to here. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "I'd love to have a good Brooklyn pizza, you know." And well, there was a place right down the street from him that I get pizza from that is the guys from Brooklyn that owns the place. And I go by there, I order a pizza on the phone, go by, pick it up. I tell the guy what I was doing with the pizza. And he goes, "No charge, give it to him." And so we went over there. Dawn and I went over there, and Dawn got to meet him. We looked at the place, and just chatting with him. And it's like, man, we can't let this guy just. I hadn't even finished the estimate yet. Okay, this is how fresh this whole thing was going down. And I was like, I can't just let this guy do this alone. I can't do it. And so I reached out to, I went on social media and I put out a post to my golf group, and we have 120 guys on there. Hey, trying to get a group of people to go out and help with this guy's house, and I really wasn't getting a lot of response. I had a couple of guys say, "Yeah, I'll be there." But it's still a lot of work to go in there and clean the wall. So it's a vinyl covered drywall that you see a lot in RVs. So if at least we can get in there and clean the walls, get the carpet out of there, even if he's just on, the bare subfloor sheathing, that's better than what he's dealing with right now. And cover his furniture. So because you touch the furniture, your hand will turn black. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to help this guy, and I'm just not getting a lot of response on it. And so I stopped in at one of the largest, or if not the largest, restoration company in the area. Just walked right in, and luckily when I walked in, the guy's wife was at the reception desk, and I said, I asked to speak to the owner because she says, "Well, what can I help you with?" And I told her what was going on, and she goes, "We can handle it." And I said, "Well, you got to understand, there's not a lot of money here." I said, "There's not enough money to do the mitigation and the repairs." I said, "I'm just looking for somebody who can come in and do basic mitigation, clean the walls, tear out the stuff that needs to be tore out, and that's it for now. At least that way it's a little bit safer environment for him to live in." She says, "Don't worry, we'll handle it." I said, "Well, he doesn't have a functional sink because he poured the hot grease down the sink and it melted the PVC pipes."
Oops.
And she goes, "We'll fix that too." Because they own a plumbing, HVAC, and restoration company. Okay.
Okay, nice.
So I got everything. And she goes, "We'll handle it." And it's just one of those things. I got it covered. I did it. And then Dawn, we're over there talking to him, and I'm looking at his hands, and his right hand is just really bad. The skin's missing off of it. And he said he had 2nd-degree burns. I said, "That's not 2nd-degree burns. That's 3rd-degree burns." And it looked like it was getting infected, and it was just, not looking good. And I said, "Hey, look, if I'm going to do you a favor, you got to do me a favor and go to the doctor." And so we got him to the doctor on Monday. And then that was actually yesterday. And then today, Dawn picked him up, took him so we went to the doctor yesterday. They arranged for him to go to a burn center. Dawn picked him up this morning, took him to the burn center. They doctored him, took care of stuff. Fortunately, he's not going to have skin grafts. They're going to be able to keep him, keep that from happening, but he's going to have some pretty pretty severe scarring from all this, and he's gonna. But the pain is just, I can't imagine the pain the guy's got to be in that hand. But and then Dawn took him to, hey, where do you want to go for lunch? Go anywhere you want to go. So he wanted to go to Red Lobster. So we're going to Red Lobster. And she said he ate very well, today at lunch.
Oh, yeah.
So the next step is we're meeting mitigation in 2 days at the house. They're going to get started. I've got somebody else I know who is very experienced with claims and in contents. They have volunteered to go over and inventory and advocate for him with the insurance company to get that done. I've actually reached out to the insurance company. I know that I'm skirting a fine line of am I getting too involved in this? And I was just transparent with the insurance company. I said, look, this is what's going on with this guy. He's got nobody to help him. And this is how I'm writing the estimate. This is how I'm doing it. I'm writing the estimate how the work is going to be done. Okay. Typically I would write it this way because it's justified to do it, but I'm doing it this way because that's how we're going to make the house livable for him. But we're definitely over policy limits on this and what's available. They had no problem with it. They were like, sometimes you have to do those things and sometimes you have to do what's really right. So I was kind of a little worried about telling them, but I would, since it had already gotten a little further out than just my local network of people or friends and network of people, got put out on LinkedIn. I thought, well, I better come clean because if they saw it, they're going to be asking questions. I mean, they're going to know who it was just by reading it, and so they didn't have a problem. They were just like, just make sure you're doing what you're supposed to. We'll look at the estimate. If we have a problem with it, we'll let you know. But they're even trying to find more coverage for him. That's what they're trying to do. And then they turned around, and then he only has, very, very little ALE. It's disgustingly low. It wouldn't cover a month anywhere. And let's put it that way. They went ahead and advanced him his ALE because he doesn't have a functional kitchen, so they just went ahead and advanced him off of that. So the carrier's being fair, and so for all those people who sit there and say the carriers only care about saving money, they're jumping in on this one. And and
people work at those places. People work at the insurance companies.
People work at them, right? So. Yeah. So that's our little project right now. That's this kind of, and I'm buried right now, dude. I am so buried. Matter of fact, it's just I got hit with a bunch of work this afternoon that I have to get knocked out tonight before I go to bed. So it's gonna be a late nighter for me.
Hey, we'll get back to James's story here in just a second, but I wanted to mention one of our premier sponsors, Verisk. These are the makers of Xactimate X1 and Xactimate Mobile. You can learn Xactimate from zero to subject matter expert from me as an Xactimate certified trainer, but you can only take the exams through Verisk. Click the link in the description below to buy your level 1, 2, or if you're feeling a bit froggy, even the level 3 exam. Not only does this make you an expert property damage estimator in this software, but it's going to look great on your resume. And here's an insider secret. Some carriers won't allow IA firms to give claims to adjusters who don't have at least a level 2 certification in Xactimate. So thanks again to Verisk for sponsoring this video. All right, back to James.
He's got arthritis really bad in his back. He doesn't even sleep in his own bed anymore. He sleeps in a recliner in his house because he can't lay flat. And the recliner is getting a little wore out. And a couple of years ago, I don't know if you and I have had conversation about my father, but my father's not doing that great. And he's fallen several times. He goes to dialysis 3 times a week. Not getting a walk. He's on a walker. Strongest man I've ever known in my life. And he's just frail and uses a walker. Well, I bought him a lift chair, a lift recliner a couple of years ago. They're not expensive, like $600-700 is what I think I paid for it. I bought that for my dad, and it made a world of difference for him. And that's what this guy needs. So I'm going to probably try to raise some money to get him once we get his place mitigated and clean. I might get it before then, but I'm either just going to go buy it or try to raise money. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to get him I talked to him about it today, and he said that he's been thinking about trying to buy one. So I was like, okay, he's already He's already cool to the idea of having one, so let's get him one. So I want to get that for him. Outside of that, I just want to get his house livable. Anyway, that's he needs that, and then we're probably there's some other things like this area is notorious that you have crawl spaces. You get moisture, and the floors around here start deteriorating pretty fast. Well, his laundry room floor is pretty soft, and it's not doing too good. So when we go in and start doing the work, I'll probably go there myself and rip out the floor in his laundry room and put down the sheathing in there and put some flooring in there for him. So that won't be anything that has anything to do with the claim, but it's just something that needs to be done. I mean, it's a mobile home, dude. It's a 35-year-old mobile home, and so we're going to just try to keep it together as long as we can for him. We're also trying to get him. He's not aware of all the services that are available to him through Medicare and the VA. So we're trying to help navigate that for him as well. I've only been around him for about a week, but the hardest part of getting the guy to accept help is the trust factor, and I don't blame him. There's a lot of people out there that would try to take advantage of somebody like this, and he's pretty street smart. So he was pretty guarded at first, and every day he's letting that guard down a little bit. Of course, you've met my sweet wife, Dawn, and
Yeah.
If I say something to him and he gives a little pushback, if Don suggested it, he's all in.
Yeah.
So I just have to say, we just tell him this, and he does it. So, but that's the story behind him. His name's, I'm not going to give his last name, but his name's Ray. Raymond.
Okay.
Everybody loves Raymond, and he's a big man too. He's over 6 foot tall. If that man fell, I'd have a hard time getting him up. I can tell you that much. Matter of fact, the first time I met him, the first time that we met, and I was at his house, I was taking some pictures, and the insurance companies don't want to see anybody's face, right? They don't want to see. They're at the point now they don't even want the body in the picture. I mean, even if the back of their head, they don't want to see it. And this company in particular is really picky about that. And so I asked him, I said, "Hey, can I get you to move over here?" I had to help him up, stand up. He walks over to the other side of the room, and then there he goes down, man. And luckily, he turned just in the right time that he hit the couch, And I was like, oh no, this is not good. But not real stable. Dawn had a conversation with him today about using a walker. He's kind of like, his ego's not wanting him to do it, But we'll probably convince him into it, some way, somehow. But here's our little project now. So I told Dawn, I said, we're at the point now we can't get rid of it. We're stuck with it.
Yeah.
He now belongs to us. Or we belong to him, rather. So.
Well, I think that's something that people might forget. When you're just because you're as an adjuster, you see things like this. Not all the time, but it's something that occasionally you will go to people's houses and you're like, how are you doing this, right? And where is your family? Where And there's no rules that say that you can't step up and help those people, right? If you have to deny their claim, there's nothing anywhere that says that you can't, give them $5,000 or whatever to help them out,
right?
Or go over and volunteer or whatever. Not at all.
I will tell you that beyond, that you're absolutely right. I mean, I've had some things in the past that. Some other cases where they really touched me, and after the fact I checked on them to make sure they were okay, and I even helped out a little bit to make sure that they had what they needed. I even put some people up in a hotel room out of my pocket one time, because they did some way somehow ALE was not added to their policy, and they had no place to stay for a few days. I paid for it, until we could figure something out. But
and that's what I mean, like $5,000 out of your own pocket, not just like giving the insurance companies money if you can't, if you're not supposed to. But and the other thing is that, and this is I think a lot more common, is that and this is why you need to be, I think, like to your earlier point, build a little bit of rapport with the insurer, talk to them, be friendly, because a lot of people there's a lot of lonely people out there that, that could just use somebody to sit down and talk with them for an extra 20 minutes, just about whatever, and you can make somebody's week by just doing that.
One of the things that Ray said to us was, he's by himself. He's lonely, and he says he opened up today and said, there's mornings I wake up and I ask myself why. That's that is, of course, that's a sign of depression in itself, and seniors are very vulnerable to depression. But he just said, I wake up, and ask myself, why am I even here? What am I doing here? Because he's by himself. He needs, and he's not in a good area either. It's not a very nice mobile home park that he's in, community. And so there's definitely some people there that if they knew his situation would probably take advantage of him. And so he's kind of stays as a hermit there. He's got one neighbor that he's become kind of friendly with, but he's still kind of, got them in an arm's reach because he's just, it's not a good area. I will tell you that probably beyond, once we get the house to where we need to get it to, there's probably on the low end. I mean, we talk about helping him out with a chair. Most of the money that he receives from the insurance is going to go to repairs. I mean, here's the way it's going to work out with this company. It's not 100% free. They're going to basically just do all the work, and whatever the insurance companies pays, they'll accept it. But they're going to make sure that the house is taken care of. And trust me, they're going to get paid about a third of what the work should be. And which means there's really not going to be money left over for furniture, mattresses, things like that he's going to need, that needs to be replaced right now, and to get that stuff out of there. So that's probably where we're going to be at. At some point, I'll put together some fundraiser and try to. We're also reaching out to some veteran organizations too to see if there's something they can do. And then once we've exhausted all that, then I'll probably put together some sort of fundraiser.
Yeah, like GoFundMe or whatever.
Yeah, GoFundMe or, we could do like a Bubba Palooza joke-a-thon 24-hour thing, and I just sit online streaming on Twitch or something, telling bad dad jokes for 24 hours. I'll figure something out.
Right.
So that's it. That's what's going on. Oh, by the way, one of the things, let's back up a second to our original topic. People really need to diversify their knowledge base. Okay, don't be a one-trick pony. That you're just a property person. Okay, there are opportunities out there. There's several areas that I have just really boomed in the last couple of years. That really takes up most of my work these days. One is basically third-party liability. We've talked about it before. A big delivery company, their drivers like to run into stuff. They tear up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's that stuff out there. Trucking liability. As I said in my post, hey, if you ever thought you'd make a good detective, talk to some firms about doing trucking liability. These are, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there are several firms out there, large firms, that are sending out emails all the time going, hey, we have a new client that's going to be doing this. Do you have any experience in this in trucking or trucking liability? Or do you have any interest? And they'll train you to do it. That stuff is actually pretty fun. It's kind of time consuming. It's all T&E, which is great about it. Okay. And if you learn I will tell you guys, forget fee schedules, T&E. Okay.
Yeah.
T&E, if anybody knows about mechanics and how mechanics get paid, they have a guide that tells them, they have a book, okay, that tells them how long it takes to replace a timing chain. And that book may say 10 hours, right? But if they can get it done in 4, they're getting paid for 10, right? Okay?
Yeah.
T&E is almost the same way. There are accepted amounts that you bill for certain tasks. And if you become very proficient at it, okay, you can still bill the average for it. It's not uncommon for me to bill 20 plus hours in a day. Okay. It's not uncommon to do that. And And I love T&E, man. I'd get off of fee schedules tomorrow. As long as they have the right hourly
Yeah,
rate.
yeah.
We got to get that straight. But I love T&E. But the trucking liability, all that stuff out there, you're not doing scene investigations and taking pictures. You're tracking down witnesses. You're canvassing a neighborhood, you're going to businesses, hey, I notice you have a camera out there. Do you happen to have the footage from this day? And you
Yeah,
typically get
totally.
these assignments the same day or the next day after they happen, and you've got to get out there fast. And dude, they're fun. They're fun to do. And if you get really good at the groundwork and the field work part of it, they'll start introducing you to the actual repair part of it, of the vehicles. Or they may just say, hey, you don't even have to do that if you don't want to, but if you have an interest, a lot of these companies are getting into it. They'll train you how to do it. So it's something to add. It's just one more thing that you have to offer these firms that are diversifying out into other things right now. And, look at every opportunity. Every time you get an email from a firm that says, hey, have you ever done this? Are you interested in it? Don't ignore it. If you really think you can do it, jump into it. There's, Matt, you talked about, during the slow times, you did deliveries for Postmates or something like that, and
Yeah.
and there's people that do Uber. I understand a lot of people are kind of a hang up about doing the Uber thing. I get it. I've done it, in the past.
Yeah.
You do whatever it takes to stay busy having gigs like that. There is nothing illegal, unethical, or anything like that if you have knowledge in this business, and you can sell roofs for a roofing company. If you're into
Yeah,
sales, you can
totally.
do that. The only thing is if you happen to do it for, it's a claim and you can't adjust it. If it gets assigned to you, you got to kick it back on. I can't adjust that. I have a relationship with the
Yeah. You can do just about anything except for
contractor.
be a public adjuster if you want to be a property adjuster.
And so there's opportunities out there, but if you want to stick into insurance, just look at the other opportunities that are out there. That way you can stay in the business, expand your knowledge. It leads to other things. Your knowledge in property and repairs on homes and like commercial work, that bleeds over into some of these other avenues like third party liability and trucking liability and stuff like that. So many claims I do is because a truck hit a building or hit an awning or, something like that. And the great thing about, and I will tell you, the greatest thing about when you get into liability claims is that there's no guidelines. Your job is to write an actual cost of repairs and basically make it go away.
Right.
Basically,
Yep.
I'm not saying that you get stupid with your estimate, okay? I'm just saying is that nobody's restricting, you only get one coat of paint, not two, things like that, or you have to use a drop cloth. You don't get that kind of thing. You actually write it up the way that it should be written up. Well, the way that you feel it should be written up. So that's
You have more flexibility.
You have so much more flexibility. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times you never get a kickback. There's no QA person going, hey, you forgot to, deduct for that window opening.
Right.
You don't get stuff like that. Anyway.
Do you want to know exactly how to get started as an independent adjuster? What training, licenses, and steps actually move the needle so you can start getting work? Then click right here and check out this next video. And don't forget to check out James Mathis on YouTube at James H. Mathis for more real-world insight from the field. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a great storm.